Week 1 in the books. The good, the bad, the ugly.
Hey,
Mr. Handsome.
Hey, how you doing, bud?
Canzano.
Yeah.
JohnCanzano.com.
Bring it in.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Week 1 officially started, right? Like, we got football now. For real.
We got football. Week 1 officially started. We're going to talk about all the Northwest schools. We'll look ahead to the national stuff, and we'll cover it all from Lee Corso from over there at College Game Day to last night to Bill Belichick's debut there as a head coach in college football, which was just a disaster. Let's start first, I guess, just the overall Week 1 observations. We'll kind of take the overhead view from you because you're covering the sport. You got thoughts on everything, and then we'll kind of go through all of the Northwest schools and some of the other stuff we saw.
Well, look, the scores are going to count. The games are going to count. But I felt like Week 1 was a lot of waiting around to see which team was going to make the worst mistake, like which team was going to fumble 3 times, which team was going to have a really bad penalty, 12 men on the field. Oregon State had a bad penalty that killed them on the very beginning of that game. And so I felt like, the NFL, we have this preseason, this exhibition feel to it that works in the NFL. College football, we do not. So, a lot of these top 10 versus top 10 matchups were which team played a cleaner game. And I'm not sure that's going to hold up over the course of the season. And so very much like the NFL, where you had the Eagles or the Chiefs losing games or having a bad run of the season, I kind of wonder if there's coming back for this from Notre Dame, Texas, Clemson, some of the losers in the opening week. So I think it's going to be a journey, and we learned that last year with Ohio State. They lost 2 games, but just the mistakes and the sloppiness and the overreaction. Everybody wants everybody fired after Week 1. I saw the Washington State fans are, how long until Jimmy Rogers gets fired? I'm like, he's undefeated. Why are we firing the guy?
It was one of your questions in John's Monday mailbag from a fan of, will Jimmy Rogers be fired after 1 year? Let's just start there. I'm an alum of the school. I've been trying to come up with the appropriate word.
Yeah.
And it was, is lackluster one word or two?
That's one word. Yeah.
So lackluster?
Yeah. It was a slog. Wasn't it kind of a slog? Like,
it was a boring football game.
Yeah. But look, here's the thing. Look back last season at all of these first-year coaches who took over new programs. Jed Fish at Washington, Brett Brennan at Arizona, Jonathan Smith goes to Michigan State. Trent Bray's at Oregon State. It was all the same. It was, they don't have their guys. They're just trying to MacGyver it. It is a slog. They are in mud and they're up to their knees in it. And they're trying to, with the transfer portal, it makes it so much easier for players just to leave. You start all the way over. He's bringing, Rogers is bringing a bunch of guys from the FCS division up to Washington State. And it looked like that against Idaho, and they're just not ready. Arizona wasn't ready. Michigan State wasn't ready last year. Washington wasn't ready when it got into big games against physical Big Ten teams. So I think that's going to be year 1 for all coaches who take over programs. And I do think it'll cause some of these schools to act a little slower with firing coaches because there's a financial component of having to pay out the buyouts and pay off the assistant coaches and buy your way out of a mess. But there's also just the slow build back. And it's a really tough thing. If I'm a football coach, I'm looking around going, hey, go ahead, fire me if you want. You're starting all the way over because everyone's leaving.
Yeah. I think the thing with Rodgers, I would just say that, everyone's starting off with new teams. But, 75 transfers, I think is what the number was. The majority of these guys are his guys from South Dakota State. Yeah. I guess I was just, I don't want him fired. I think a little taken aback of how sloppy they were on some procedural penalties. And I get it. You got a first-year head coach with, these intermixing all the new players. Surprises everybody with the quarterback decision. I do want to ask you about that one in a quick second. I think the big hype was the offensive change. Yeah. He was going from an air raid offensive setup to more of it's a ground first attack. And that failed miserably. And I know there's a lot of people, and Ryan Leaf is leading the charge of you're a bad fan if you're critical of how the team looked in week 1. I disagree with that. There's nothing wrong. You can be a fan and say, I don't like the way that they played in week 1. And from an offensive standpoint, they failed miserably. They had 3 yards against Idaho.
Yeah. You can go into a restaurant and you don't have to be a chef to be critical of the cooking, right? You know what you like. And I don't blame people for going to the stadium or watching that game on TV and saying, "Oh, I didn't like it. It was ugly. It looked bad." It was, it wasn't encouraging. It's not the kind of game that's going to make people want to, oh, we got to go see them play next week. But that's kind of going to be what I think year 1 is for a lot of these coaches. And you raised a great point. Like, they're not just changing coaching staff, they are changing the entire system. They're going from being right-handed to being left-handed. It's like lining up a tackle at wide receiver. You've just got some real inherent problems there, and you're going to see it, especially when they get in there against teams that are more physical. But I noticed something else too. Like, I think there's so much more to being a head coach than the rest of us realize. And that's what the money's for and everything. But I even saw it at Oregon State. Trent Bray's going from being the head coach to now he wants to call the defense. He's the coordinator. They're going on to special teams, and they're about to, change from defense to offense. He's kind of dealing with his defense as they come off the field, and they end up with a substitution penalty. That's where the head coach has to be kind of watching things going, wait a minute, don't run onto the field. We got 12 guys on the field. Somebody has to be on that, and they weren't at Oregon State. Same thing with the procedural stuff at Washington State. I think they're drinking through a fire hydrant right now. Wow. And I think, we don't understand the demands of the portal, recruiting your own roster. He just went through all of that. Who's your assistant, your administrative assistant? Who's the media guy? You're just dealing with so much that it just looked bad. It looked sloppy for teams that had coaches that were returning. And so I think, look, I don't agree with Ryan Leaf. I think you can be critical of it. Doesn't make you a bad fan. You have to have a high bar and set a high bar for your program. And when they don't get there, you need to call it out. Yeah. I don't hear anybody saying, I'm never watching a Washington State football game again. I just heard people saying, gosh, that was ugly. And if they could barely beat Idaho, who are they going to beat left on the schedule?
Yeah, I think there's a great concern. Listen, there's a lot of fans that are just concerned, concerned where they're at, concerned where they are in the hierarchy of college football and, the disparity and the money gap and all of that. And where is that going to leave them? And there were a lot of people that were very concerned, despite the credentials of where he came from, because the last time they dipped their toes in an FCS head coach, that was Paul Wolf, and it was a disaster, an absolute disaster. And I think that there's some people that are like, okay, we'll see. And now we want to change how we've always been offensively, which I support. I like having more of a balanced team and being able to run the ball and all that and all that. But I just think that I was taken aback of the lack of physicality, how dominant Idaho was, their defensive line against the Cougars' offensive line. That was surprising. Now I want to ask you about the quarterback situation. Now, I think it's fair to put criticism on Jimmy Rogers from this standpoint. I don't know why coaches do this. I don't get it. Is it gamesmanship? What are you trying to prove? And I thought he got a little too cute this week with the or on every position. Mm-hmm. Like he was going to try and pull something over Thomas Ford. I honestly, and maybe it's too strong a word, a little embarrassing to do it against a team like Idaho too. It's a lower level team. I guess I would just say this. Here's my starting quarterback. Here's my starters. So what if you know? Mm-hmm. You guys go out and try and beat us. And I just think he got too cute with the whole Jackson Potter. I'm not going to tell anybody who the quarterback is. He even did the pregame interview with the play-by-play guy that, again, aired. I know they taped it like an hour or 2 hours before, but it plays 15 minutes before the game. He wouldn't even tell that guy. Yeah. It's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and I think it goes so far as to maybe damage the confidence level at a position like quarterback. I see sometimes coaches will do this, and I think, yeah, you're trying to play coy. But there is something like, the old mantra, confidence is comfort, comfort is confidence. I want that starting quarterback to know that I believe in him, and I will say that publicly. We're all going to find it out. And by the way, you don't really lose anything. Cal did the same thing. It worked out for Cal. Cal wouldn't let any reporters into any practices. They did all the scrimmages were private. We all knew who was going to start though, because Justin Wilcox came out and said, Jaron Chiave Sagapolatelli is my guy. We're going to start a true freshman. Said that a week before the game. It didn't change anything. Nobody had seen him play. And so nobody was going to know really what Washington State was going to look like. And it probably became more of a distraction in-house and a problem for the media relations staff who had to do with every position. But yeah, it didn't look cute on the field. And so stop trying to be cute off the field.
I would say to any coach that does that, I mean, what are you embarrassed that he's the starter? I mean, I should just name him the starter and move on and go from there. We'll see if he perhaps learn from that. Let's flip it over to the team on the other side. They've got San Diego State this week, so we'll see if they can look better they did than this past week. But you're right, a win is a win, and they're 1-0. Washington, on the other hand, faced a very good Colorado State team, who the Cougars will see coming up shortly. It was a game for a half, but they pull away there in the second half. Coming out of the game, offensive line looked improved. Defense looked shaky, but the two primary playmakers, Damon Williams, who I know you're very high on, and Jonah Coleman, both looked the part.
Yeah, you got the win. You're 1-0, and that's where you need to be right now. And it was a little tougher game for Washington than some of the other Big Ten teams like Oregon that played Montana State. And so I think, you should beat Colorado State, but we've seen Colorado State punch above its weight. So I liked it. I'm not too concerned about the defense. It was I'm looking for the big improvement between week 1 and week 2 that we saw from Washington. The overall physicality was better. It wasn't maybe as much of accelerated as I thought it would be, but they passed the eye test for me. And I like what they did in the second half. And I think, they demonstrated they've got better players than Colorado State. But let's see what they look like when they get in there against true Big Ten physical teams, because that's where they really failed last year. They got shoved around. They got put on roller skates, Puck, and they got wheeled around the stadium anytime they played a team that was really physical.
Well, they're going to see it coming up shortly, September 27th at home against Ohio State. That will be a physical battle, and we'll get to Ohio State and Texas quickly. You brought up Oregon, didn't seem to have much of a problem. Montana State pushed them aside. What were your observations of watching Oregon there in week 1 under Dan Lanning?
Yeah, he played a lot of guys, and I thought that was interesting. We remember a few years ago he beat Portland State like 80 to something. They put a snowman on Bruce Barnum, and so he was content to win this game 59-13, played a bunch of quarterbacks, let guys throw passes, let guys catch passes. I think there were 10 or 12 receivers that caught passes, 10 running backs that rushed. He just played a whole bunch of guys. They have incredible depth. It told me they've learned something from last year, right? First of all, they needed to get back on the football field after getting boat raced by Ohio State. They got embarrassed last year in the Rose Bowl. So it was good to see them get out onto the field and play a game, kind of officially put it behind them. They waited all off season. But then the way he coached that game told me he understands like this could be 14, 15 game season. And so he's just playing a whole bunch of guys, trying to stay healthy, and forget trying to put 70 points on Montana State. They could have if they would have gone pedal to the metal. They didn't in this game. And so I think they shut people down early. Dante Moore was good enough. Want to see more, but a lot of it was easy. It was just pitch and catch for him.
What about, I'm going to go Oregon State in a second. What about the verbal sparring back and forth between Dan Lanning and Mike Gundy? People don't know. Gundy takes a shot at Oregon saying they're spending $40 million, a year. We're spending something like $7 million. Lanning had heard it before from Kirby Smart, and it's like, hey, I don't know what they're doing over there, but listen, if in this day and age, you've got to spend, you got to spend to win. So it's a nice little subplot to the game coming up this weekend between the two.
Yeah. And Gundy doesn't have his quarterback, right? So he's lost his quarterback. So he's in a real disadvantage. I don't know why you'd poke the bear here if you're Mike Gundy, because if we learn anything about Dan Lanning, when he takes something personally, you see it play out on the field. He took it personally that Colorado was trying to recruit against him a few years ago, and they pounded Coach Prime in Colorado at home. I think Oklahoma State has poked the bear here, and Gundy foolish. I also think it's absurd for a coach to say, hey, look, Gundy even said this. He said, maybe we should just play non-conference games against programs that are spending like we spend. Really? Like you just played University of UT Martin. Like that's who you played. And yeah, if we apply that, like Portland State played BYU, BYU spends like 50, $60 million in investment in football. Portland State's budget is 4.8 million, has no NIL. So if we start doing that, who's really going to play each other? You have very distinct levels in college football, but Oklahoma State took this game because it wants Oregon to come back and play in Stillwater, and Oregon's going to play there. And Gundy, guess what? You're going to make some money, but I just don't know why he does this. It's not going to end well for him. I knew Oregon would win this game, but I kind of wonder if Dan Lanning now will tack on a couple touchdowns at the end just to be like, hey, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt it. Oregon State, that just boy, a lot of people. I was reading online, Beaver fans not happy about this one. 34-15 to Cal. Obviously, thought this be much closer, maybe even pull it out, but is starting to seem like there's a lot of people out there with Bray that they're not too confident that he's the guy there.
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration right now with Trent Bray, and it was the disorganization. It was they looked bad, they looked disorganized, they weren't poised. Malik Murphy, the quarterback, in the start of the fourth quarter, he's on the sideline, he's barking at the offensive consultant that they brought in on the sideline. It just wasn't a very poised effort by Oregon State. Now, the opening drive, they stop Cal, and again, they're trying to get the punt team on, and they have two guys who wear the same number. They ended up with two guys with the same number on the field at the same time. That is like, JV mistake that you should be on top of if you are the head coach at Oregon State. So a lot of questions about Bray. Is he the guy? Can he recruit? Is he just a coordinator? I think that's going to follow him. And now they play Fresno State at home. And Fresno State's not bad, okay? And they have to win this game. Oregon State has to win this game. They're in a must-win situation in week 2. They don't win. They've got Texas Tech on the road and Oregon on the road. They're looking at 0-4 to start the season if they can't win this game. Now, the last part of the season, they've got Washington State twice. They've got 7 or 8 games down the stretch that I think they can win them all. They can go on a nice run here, but they've got to beat Fresno State at home. It is such an important game for them. They looked bad on offense, didn't love the quarterback play, didn't run the ball. They ran for like 65 yards in the game, not enough. And Cal looked good, and the Cal's true freshman quarterback is a talented player. Cal might win 8 or 9 games.
Some other week 1 observations. Speaking of the quarterback play, and it did not look good. Boy, did this hype machine of Arch Manning was at an all-time level. This is the next great thing. This is maybe the best quarterback that's ever come in college football. I mean, it was out of control.
Yeah.
And he comes out and he looked awful.
Yeah.
He didn't look good at all.
I think Texas in general, look, some of this is Ohio State. They're good. Some of this is week 1. Should they even be playing this kind of game in week 1? Would have been better for Texas to have a tune-up game in week 1. They didn't get it. They got Ohio State. And so, but it was bad, and it was set up to be that way. He didn't look great. And, there's a lot of apologists out there who are saying, it was just Ohio State. Oh, cut him a break. This is what he signed on for. And his coach has put him, I think, in a really tough position. And Texas's receivers just could not get separation against Ohio State's defensive backs. And they were supposed to be this elite unit. But I put that on coaching a little bit. Like, Sark, you got to find a way to get your guys open.
Some of his throws but they were bad.
Yeah.
I mean, like they were in the dirt behind him, all that. Kalen DeBoer, I was looking at their schedule. They lose to Florida State. The pitchforks are already out. He had some awkward exchange yesterday with a media member about him feeling good about the week of preparation, and they had this Abbott and Costello thing back and forth. They lose to Georgia September 27th, and let's say it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing, and it's in Athens. No one would be shocked if they oust him then.
He signed on. It's just such a bad move for him to leave Washington and go to Alabama.
Yeah.
And I said it at the time. You're Frank Sinatra Jr. You're replacing Nick Saban. And you have to be aware, like, I made 2 phone calls, Puck. I called a coach in the Pac-12. I called a coach in the ACC. I said, why is Saban leaving Alabama? And one guy said he knows it's time to get out. And the other guy said he knows he's not going to have unquestionably the better players now at Alabama because the portal and NIL has leveled the playing field. Alabama can't be Alabama in this next era, and Saban knew it. So if you're Kalen DeBoer, you just left a Washington program where they would have been happy. You just played in the national title game, happy to win 9 games, happy to flirt around 10 games year to year. And he could have done that at Washington. So he goes to Alabama, where if you win 9, you're getting fired. And so that's the job he signed on for. And not only that, Alabama got hit with the portal. I mean, again, you have a coach who's leaving last year in Nick Saban. I think this last offseason, he lost 25 players in the portal into the draft. So he's got all this turnover and attrition. He, again, is a coach who's taken over a program last year, goes 9-4. Now he's lost a 5th game. Now he's 9-5. Yeah, the pitchforks are out, and the Alabama fans are not going to be forgiving. And if you don't make the playoff, then I think that's the bar. I think he can afford 2 losses, Puck, and that's it. So he's got one mulligan to give here. Maybe it's the Georgia game, but Alabama has to get to the playoff, or Kalen DeBoer is going to get himself in trouble.
And it's these preseason polls were maddening. They had ranked, number 8, and the latest AP poll just came out, and they're at 21st. And I'm just like, why? I mean, what did they prove to even be in the top 25?
Right.
Based on that performance. But yeah, it's I commend, it's a 2-parter. I commend him for taking on the challenge. I think a lot of people didn't want to take on that challenge of replacing Nick Saban. And I thought to myself, on one side of it, good for him because he felt confident enough in himself. But on the flip side, I agree with you. It's just a no-win situation that he put himself in position there. Bill Belichick, you got Kirk Herbstreit getting caught on a hot mic coming back from commercial saying, God, this team is bad. And now he's getting all upset that someone found it. Well, what do you expect us to you caught us in a rare moment. Well, it's fine. They're bad. They looked awful. I hope this is a burning truck on the side of the road for Bill Belichick.
It will be. The only way out for him was to look great and win a bunch of games out of the gates. And now he's got this schedule that has him playing 2 games in 5-6 days and 3 games in 13 days. So look at their schedule. It's very unforgiving. And, it is a young man's game. Yeah. And I'm not saying it can't be done, but you look at the coaches that are like Dan Lanning and, he looks exhausted to me. And he's 38 years old. I can't imagine being Bill Belichick.
No, I don't think he's not going to be along for it. Lastly, give me Lee Corso's impact on college football.
Well, I mean, the viewership of his finale was amazing. I mean, when you look at how many people tuned in, I think, we've watched in the last year sort of this progression from what college athletics used to be and college football used to be, and seeing characters like Lee Corso, who is a figure that I think transcends beyond, this coaching or whatever. He became a figure and an installment, obviously, on game day. And game day was it was a must watch during that era. It's not anymore. But I think Corso just connected with people. And I think it's almost like people were wishing an era goodbye as much as they were wishing Corso goodbye. Because I think a lot of people have recognized, as you see Miami beat Notre Dame, and you see Oregon spending the way they are and getting criticized for it and saying, hey, we have no apology for it, that an era and something has changed. And so line up how much you're spending on your football program and wave goodbye to Lee Corso and wave goodbye to college football. I mean, I think there was some nostalgia there that went beyond Corso's departure.
Well, I agree. We're going to wave goodbye to you. What do you got cooking at johncanzano.com?
Well, Mario Cristobal, the Miami coach, I had a text exchange with him in the last couple of days. I congratulated him on his win against Notre Dame, and he sent me a photo of his family on the field, and something jumped out at me. It's this idea that you see your own kids every day, and you watch them have these incremental growth moments. You don't really notice it, Puck. You don't notice it. And then what happens? You run into somebody you haven't seen in years, and they go, oh, my God, your kids have grown up. I looked at Mario Cristobal's kids and I was like, oh my gosh, has it been that long? And in 4 years, he has Miami now in this position where I think they could play deep into the playoff. Oregon could play deep into the playoff. Amid all the belly aching from a guy like Mike Gundy, you've got Cristobal and Lanning playing this new version of college football where it is very much about spending and what you have on your roster. So I sort of suppose, could we have Oregon and Miami play in the playoff? Could they play for a national championship someday? Is this what college football has become? You can read that now. It's up now.
All right, you're the best. JohnCanzano.com. Follow him on social media, John Canzano BFT. He's got a radio show, starts at 3, Bald-Faced Truth Radio down there in Portland, 750 The Game. It's back. I love college football. It's even this dysfunctional version of it. I still enjoy it.
Well, people are fired up, man. Whether we're going all the way or coach has to be fired. I mean, it's just that it's week 1 and the overreaction.
That's exactly right. All right, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, John.